Statins, do they damage your brain? As someone with genetic predisposition to dementia on one side and heart disease on another, I was always interested in the answer and reading everything I could about it. Because you just need to know how do you maximize the benefits to your heart and minimize the risks to your mind. And this recent meta-analysis, the study of studies, looked at 7 million people and really adds a lot to the story. So let's take a look at the latest findings together, and we'll use some common sense and an engineering approach to compare pros and cons, because statins definitely have both, which I have experienced personally.
So there's so many side effects of statin, but the big one is myopathy. Now that's a general...
And then I'll show you some of the new tests top functional and longevity doctors use, which can tell if you even need statins or other tools would do a better job. So let's start at the foundation. You probably know that cholesterol isn't just a bad guy. Every cell in your body needs it, especially the brain. But the cholesterol your liver produces and the one you measure in your blood are basically unrelated to what you get here. There is a blood-brain barrier which doesn't let any cholesterol in. So the brain makes and keeps its own stash. And well, there is an interesting marker, desmosterol, a precursor to cholesterol that is more tightly correlated to brain levels, but for that you need to tap the spine with a needle to get CNS fluid, and it's a dead end for anything practical. But desmosterol will come into play a bit later when we look at the heart health. But the point is, there are some real nuances here, and that's what makes the statin decisions anything but black and white. Not easy, but good news, smart people live longer. So before we even get to brain and memory, let's think about risks like an engineer. Do they outweigh the benefits or not? Cholesterol cannot get from your liver to your heart on its own. It needs a vehicle, it needs a truck. And so cholesterol on its own is not good or bad, it's just a passenger. However, the trucks can get you into trouble if they get into an accident. More trucks, more accidents. Same amount of cholesterol, but in 2 trucks instead of 1, essentially doubles the risk. But good news, you can measure the risk by measuring the number of trucks with a test called apoB. It's not on your regular panel, but it's very cheap and you should ask for it every time. Because as Tom Dayspring said during his cholesterol masterclass, if you measure one thing, it has to be this one, apoB. And those trucks, apoB, are the primary target of statins. Fewer trucks on the road, the better your road and your neighborhood is going to be. Because when the trucks crash into the artery walls, the cargo starts to rot. And that inflamed soft plaque is what creates heart attacks and brain damage. Stroke on a big scale, vascular dementia on a small one. But what if you suppress that inflammation? Then it all dries out and calcifies, which is actually a good thing. Your calcium score will go up, but the risk of dying will go down. In a way, it's like a scar. Not ideal, but at least stable. And guess what statins also do? They drive inflammation down, so you get double benefit from them. But what's on the other side? Side of side effects, do they outweigh the benefits? So what we have is muscle pain and weakness. It's real in about 5% of cases. And usually it's statin type related, and you have many: lovastatin, rosuvastatin, pitavastatin. The list goes on, and you can experiment with different types. Also, it is dose related. And sometimes you don't need a lot, if anything. Remember that desmosterol? You can actually do a blood test called cholesterol balance, which looks at desmosterol and other cholesterol precursors. And this test will tell you if it's your liver or your gut that is more responsible for high cholesterol. And when you know the root cause, you don't need to megadose. You can just attack where it matters. Another, you use a drug called ezetimibe for the absorption. Another real problem is blood sugar. Statins can nudge glucose higher with the biggest changes in those already close to diabetes. For example, I'm taking 2.5 milligrams of rosuvastatin every other day, tiny dose. But my glycated hemoglobin went up 0.1%, which can be measurement error, but now I'm considering switching to a microdose of lovastatin or good quality red yeast rice, which is essentially the same. They can have better effect on sugar, or there is a statin called pitavastatin, which has no downsides at all, just more expensive. So I'm not there yet. Next on the list is brain fog, and probably the most talked about issue, but placebo-controlled trials find the same rate of fog between statins and sugar pills. And if you believe statins will ruin your life, well, you're kind of asking for it. I have a whole video dedicated to placebo, nocebo, and all their relatives, which you can check later if you want to control your life better. And you need to monitor your liver enzymes. They are also dose and type dependent, but in most cases are not an issue. With all that, what does the meta-analysis actually show? This is 7 million people pulled from 55 studies, and if statins really hurt brain health, we would expect to see higher rates of dementia. But what we see is the opposite. Statins users actually had around 14% lower risk of developing issues, especially with Alzheimer's and with longer use. And most likely scenario, whatever statin amount which seeps into the brain reduces inflammation and improves the blood flow. Doesn't mean that they prevent every case, but the idea that statins lead to dementia is just not supported by the current evidence. If that is going to change, I'll let you know. That said, should you take a statin? Well, I cannot answer that. It all depends on your risk tolerance. I can tell what I do and the way I look at it. The tiny difference in accumulation I get now turns over time, and I'm not talking 10 years, I'm talking like 50, it turns into a big difference, like a 401k retirement investment, invest a little bit here and here, and you get a lot. And that actually matches what European Society of Cardiology says. There are no right or wrong answers. I've seen people personally with high calcium scores and LDL who choose skip meds. I've seen younger people with clean arteries who are just aggressive. And the guidelines says both are right. It all comes down to your attitude about risk and your own priorities. So to recap, statins are just tools. They're not evil, they're not magic. For some people, the benefits easily outweigh the risks. For others, it's a toss-up. And for everyone, the best move is to know your numbers, your risks, and make an informed, intentional decision. But to fully understand your personal risks, you need to fully understand what else is going on with cholesterol and those drugs delivering it, weather conditions inside, and what rescue teams you have, which I talk about in this cholesterol deep dive here. So living is smart, aging is bad, and let's meet right there.